No, you're down in posterity forever because we record these and post them on the augie.edu/strengths site. So, they quickly turned off their computer. I was like, oh, you're being recorded, and everybody shut off their camera. Like, no, don't do it. Seriously, you can leave your computer screen on if you want. Don't worry about it. Everybody looks like they're at the end of the day. Or if you prefer, you can leave your video off. It is whatever your preference is. So anyhow, hey, welcome. We are here. I am Jeff Bennekamp. I'm one of the hosts of Strengths Convos with Brent and Jeff. And as always, I'm here with my buddy Brent Olinger. Say hi, Brent.
Hi.
We are both certified strengths coaches, and on Augustana's campus, we every Wednesday break down one different strength to talk about. Maybe give those of you with that strength a little bit of guidance on how to leverage it, turn it into a superpower. And for those of you that don't have it in your top 5, maybe some advice on how to deal with people that do have it in their top 5. So that's kind of what our goal is today. It lasts maybe 25, 30 minutes. Sometimes we have a hard stop because Brent and I both have things to do at 4 o'clock. So we're like, oh, that's it, it's over. And sometimes not. So, however, Brent, you want to get us started with a little bit of just fun facts about restorative?
Yeah, you know, one of the things, and I don't have restorative in my top 10, but one of the things that I think folks with restorative first are great at are identifying problems or weaknesses or things that just might not be working right. And depending on where you're at and what you identify and what you kind of know about the world, like that can be, you can be really energized either by solving like big complex problems, or it might be something that's small fixes, and that can be everywhere in between depending on your interests, knowledge, and your skills. So I think there's a lot of the words that I like wanted to highlight is thinking about this strength in a really positive way about being courageous and having creativity. I think folks with restorative can easily identify potential problems, potential issues, and they try to make something that isn't working better. So I think that's like a really, really great strength. On the opposite end, like sometimes the perception that you can give off is because you're focusing on problems, like you might be seen as a person who like, because you can easily identify problems, you might be associated with the problems, or you might be associated with like the fixing process, which sometimes can be complicated. Sometimes the conversations aren't always easy, especially if they're more like bigger, complex things. So I think that's a piece of advice is to be aware that because you like to solve problems, sometimes you can be associated with that, but really bringing out the fact that you're courageous in the fact that you're identifying it and that you're able to work through a problem to a conclusion.
Yeah, I would add to that this as a superpower is really cool because you see so many problems so quickly. The thing to get good at is trying to check in with the emotions of the room so that you're so good at seeing problems, other people might not see the problem that you see. So you need to make sure you're checking in often to go, oh, do you guys see this? Or do I need to explain why this is a problem? Because you're so quick at it, you move into fixing mode early, and you don't want to get that reputation as the person that's always fixing something that other people don't see that needs to be fixed. So
well, and this is a very like doing strength, like you get the energy from actively fixing problems and like solving those things, and that can happen really quickly in your process, where other people who might have strengths that are in relationship building or strategic thinking or influencing, like strategic thinkers, they might want a little bit more time to like think through what's the best fix, even if you have the best fix right away because you have the right answer and you have the experience of doing it. But then relationship focused people, they're focused on the people aspect of it. So I think letting those opinions in and letting them help in your process of executing restorative can be helpful as well.
Right. I think if you think of this with Kiana's strengths is a good example. So Kiana and her activator and her command are so brave and so willing to get started that if you combine that with a restorative person like Caitlin, who's from Harrisburg also, you might, you might find yourself being like, let's get started on fixing a problem that maybe other people don't see as a problem yet. Because people with high command are so brave and so willing to step front that it could become a little bit of a, you get the cart a little bit ahead of the horse sometimes. So just make sure you're doing a double check to make sure everybody's right there. You looked at each other like, yeah, they're nailing it. Is that true? Is that what you guys are doing? Like you're talking to each other in the same room? Like, oh yeah, that's exactly it. Cool. I see the head shake. I think Samantha, did you say you had restorative, Samantha? No, you don't have restorative, which you'd be the great person to partner with. So Caitlin, somebody to think about partnering with, because Samantha's high empathy, she's going to pick up that emotion of the room really well. And she's going to be able to clue you in as if everybody's ready to go with you to fix things, because she's so adept at picking up the emotions and connecting to the room. So we talk about, just some of the outlines of here's what the strength is. And then we talk about how do we develop these strengths into something super cool. And so I would encourage you, find new and challenging things that are going to push you, because you need to constantly be challenged by new situations. Caitlin, if you decided, maybe nursing, but maybe genetic engineering or genetic counseling or something like that, there's a new problem to fix, right? With genetics, you can always be like, ooh, maybe we can fix this at a cellular level, or maybe we can fix this in a different level, which is exciting and it's new and it's challenging. Keep working on challenging situations. Don't fall into routine. That's one piece of advice. I would also look for leadership courses and things like that as you're planning and developing the rest of your academic plan, because you're going to quickly want to start fixing things, and you're going to want to start stepping into this, wait, let me fix this role because it's natural. You need to learn how to do that in an effective way. So thinking about what courses of leadership exist, and when you're looking to the electives of going, I want to try out this leadership and learn, the seven types of leadership or 8 types of leadership, if that's what they're up to now. I would make sure you're looking for those types of things. Are you, Caitlin, I'm going to ask you maybe a blunt question, and since you're the restorative person in the room, Jane, I don't know, Jane, do you have restorative, Jane Schroeder? Maybe she's off in the other room or something. But Caitlin, here's my question for you. Do you find yourself fixing relationships? Like you want to get into relationship mode?
Yeah, I pretty much fix everything. Like if anything, doesn't matter what it is, I'll go for it. I'll fix it to the best of my ability. So
well, this is my advice to you as you're developing that. Make sure you're asking for permission to fix things, especially when it's dealing with other people.
Yeah, no, I do. If like they come to me, I'll help them fix it, but I won't like seek out fixing somebody else's relationship.
Yeah. I work with a coach who, and he's a coach of coaches, so he's helping me become a better coach. And he says, really articulate your role in the moment. So something for you to think of. My role right now is to be your coach and listener, so I will listen and reflect back what I say. If you want, I can turn into an advice giver. But until you ask, or until I get permission to ask for advice, to give you advice, I'm just going to be the mirror. And that maybe is a good way for you to start thinking about what your role is and articulating that role to people, because your natural instinct is to want to fix. So make sure you get permission to do that, especially with relationships and people that are important to you. You don't want to become a Budinsky. You know what I mean? The person that butts in. Jane, I saw you unmuted and I asked you the question. Did you have restorative in your top 5?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so are we hitting some nails for you as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Um,
I know another piece of advice, and I think this is with any strength that you have, is like now that you're aware, like you know your top 5, like think about moments in your past when you were successful, maybe some moments where you're not successful, and kind of just evaluating like how did that go? Why were you successful in that moment? And thinking about those moments and how you can repeat them going into the future. And like Jeff highlighted, that's going to be different whether it's like fixing of like something grammatical in like bylaws, for example, as like a student leader. Like that's very different than fixing things that might be like interpersonal within an organization. So I think just being aware that there are different things that you can fix, but they apply differently depending on what you're fixing.
I would say, you know, some people to partner with, Caitlin and Jane for sure. Look for people with positivity to be a strong partner with. Your natural ability to find problems and to want to fix problems can kind of become a negative, or you know, you need somebody to say, no, let's do that, and this will be better, and we can make things better. So find somebody with positivity. Find people that have high developer, because they're so great at people skills and wanting to improve people skills. So people with developer are good partners. And then the last thing on developing this skill that I'll tuck on before we get into some specifics of academic success. You're really hard on yourself sometimes. People with restorative often see themselves as a great project to fix. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Your honesty is really valuable and really strong, and that's fantastic, but don't be overly harsh, okay? I want to give yourself a little bit of a break.
Yeah, so we had a question that came up. Kiana wrote that she's a nursing major and it's heavily focused on relationship building, especially with patients. And that yours more aligned with like influencing strategic. So what does that mean? I think in general, like if you're thinking you need to have like all of yours in relationship building because that's really important, I think it just means you come about the role in a different way. And you might be thinking about it a different way. And I will say the top 5 aren't the end all be all of who you are. Earlier I referenced my top 10 because I actually know where all 34 of mine align. So you might have some relationship building like strengths specifically within your top 10. It just didn't show up in your top 5. So that doesn't mean you don't build relationships. I know for myself, I have one relationship building skill and it comes in at like the 9th position. So it's not necessarily something that I'm using all the time, but I think I go about relationships with like my strategic mind, and also with like how I think I prioritize relationships in a different way that kind of comes through my executing and strategic thinking strengths. So it doesn't mean you don't form relationships. I obviously have relationships with people, even though I don't have one in my top 5. It's just you think about them maybe in different ways. Good question.
I would only chime in on that, Kiana. To me, the philosophy of strengths is about finding your talents, the things that you're gifted at, and figuring out how do you be successful with those. So you don't need to have great individualization, which is a relationship building strength, or great empathy or great harmony. You don't have to have those in order to see value in them and figure out how do I do that. You have unique talents in your command and activator, so focus on them and figure out how do I use those to become a great relationship builder. That's high command is willing to be brave and walk into situations that are unknown, and that's a great relationship building strength because people look to that and go, oh my gosh, this person's so brave, and they want to see somebody with vulnerability and bravery. So I think that's one example of a way that you could take that talent. Okay, so if we want to talk about some other things like success in academics, which is obviously something I think is important for you. For sure, when you're looking at syllabi and syllabuses, um, syllabuses, highlight areas that you can see that are problem areas. Things that you're going to be like, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a tough week. As you are taking your syllabus and putting it into your day planners or your wall calendars and you're making that translation, notice early those areas that you're going to be problem weeks. You know, last week was probably end of a quarter, maybe. Anybody have any tests last week? Yeah, like everybody's kind of had tests and assignments last week. So when you notice those, and if that piles up on like 2 or 3 classes at the same time, highlight those and notice that that's a problem so that you can work backwards to figure out how you're going to solve that problem before you get there. Nothing worse than being surprised by having a paper and 2 tests in the same week. Because now all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I should have been working on this problem, restorative, 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. So make sure you're highlighting those. Many of you are probably going to start getting back some grades here in the near future. Don't let unexpectedly low grades tank you. This will maybe be, I mean, this is common experience. Wait, you're shaking your heads like, yeah, okay. Because this is going to be common for so many first-year students here in the next 3 weeks. You're going to get a surprise grade because you're like, in high school, I never got this grade. I never worked so hard to get this grade. Just don't let something negative affect you or tank you down to the point. Just turn it around and say, I know how I can fix this, and look towards solution. Turn your restorative on to fixing it rather than reflecting back, which will go great with both of you or you having futuristic. Think about what are we going to do going forward. Brent, do you want to chime in? I feel like I'm talking a lot again.
Yeah, no, and I just think with that piece of advice, it's like focus on the task and not like who you are as a person. Like, sure, like we all can fail. We can all do things wrong. We're not perfect. There's not enough time in the day to be perfect and do everything right, especially in college. So I think like acknowledging like, okay, maybe this is a place where I could have studied more, or this was like the topic. You know, if you're getting that test back, like maybe there's just a section that you didn't do so well in that you weren't prepared for. So like thinking forward, how do I prepare for that section? And I think if you make it a lot more like task oriented than necessarily like focused on you, that gives you a path forward. And that doesn't get you into a cycle of like being overbearing on yourself or being self-critical.
Yeah, I would add to that, for sure, make sure you go back and find the correct answers to the questions you miss.
Yeah.
Right? Like some people just gloss over it, like, oh, I missed these and I'm just moving on. But somebody with restorative will see a great value in finding out the right answers and going back and figuring out what you did wrong. So do that. Be frank with your professors and ask your professors to point out the things that you're weak at. Like give them permission to be blunt with you about the projects that you have personally to grow on, grow in. I'll tell you, all the professors at Augustana are here to help you. They want you to be successful in whatever you're going to do, whether it's nursing, whether it's genetic counseling, whether it's whatever, art. Samantha, did you tell me what your major was?
My major is nursing.
Yeah, so all of the nursing professors are here to make you successful, and they want you to be successful. So asking them early about areas that you could grow just gives an open dialogue for them to jump in and help you and coach you through the learning process. At 18 or 19 years old, you're your first restorative project. You're the first project. And if you look at yourself like as a growth, like I don't have everything fixed yet, but you don't, because you're only 18 or 19 and you've got years and years and years to get fixed. So work
And
on that.
that's one of the number one things that employers look for. Like they want to know that you're a coachable individual. So I think if you're doing that, you know, in your academic setting, that's going to translate over to when you are, you know, in genetic counseling, or if you are a nurse. That's helpful to gain those skills now in the classroom, because while that's not necessarily directly happening in class, taking the extra effort to be coachable by your professors and by the people you work with, that's just going to set you up for success in the future.
Yeah. I would add, as well as as we're talking about selecting courses and things like that, smaller class size, discussion-based classes, classes that do a lot of like case study work and things like that are probably areas where you'll be adept and really want to dig into, because that can show off your ability to problem solve and to see a bigger problem than maybe just the case study that we're talking about. But so often a case study isn't a simple problem. It's, let's talk about the bigger concept. And so finding those abilities, because you'll see the bigger concept before the rest of the class. And then the last thing that I have in my notes is your co-curricular or the extracurricular work that you're going to get to do as you are looking for clubs and organizations and things to belong to. Find yourself a project club. As you're trying on different clubs and organizations, find a club or organization that you think could use some help getting better, something, a cause that you believe in that's important, whether it's, I don't know, there's a gazillion clubs to choose from, but what's your cause that you think is a big world problem that you can dig into now and start practicing your leadership skills to help fix maybe the structure of the organization now, so that by the time you get to your junior and senior year, you've got a club that you've invested into that's going to solve world problems in a bigger scale. Brent, what have I missed? I know you go through different research process than I do.
No, I think we've covered it pretty well.
All right. Caitlin, what do you think? You're the restorative person. And Jane, you're the restorative person. What questions do you have?
I don't necessarily have any questions. It's just interesting to hear all about myself.
Okay, so let me ask you this: is it fitting you? Do some of these things connect to what you see in yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I like to solve the problems, and when I bring a problem to somebody and they won't let me solve it, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
They won't give me an answer or take my suggestion. It is very frustrating.
Well, now you know, ask for permission to fix it. And they might want you to jump in. That might be one step forward, is to ask for that permission so that they can become alongside of you with that.
Well, and depending on like your relationships with people at work, like people might come to you with a problem that they're having. And I think even just asking the question is like, what do you want to get out of this conversation? Just to figure out, like, is this a place where I can use my restorative, skills, or is it something where they want to, explain a problem that's going on and they might want your help to fix it, or they just might want you to listen and, be empathetic or just try to understand what's going on. Because I think it could be easy to get caught up in the like, all right, I'm in fix it mode, but that might not be what that person wants at that moment.
Caitlin, what do you think? We've talked about you. What do you think?
I don't really have any questions. I feel a little called out. It was pretty accurate. I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, that's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
enjoy it.
Caitlin, what it is it's recognizing something that you're special at.
Yeah.
And if we're calling you out for being super fantastic at something, then congratulations on being super fantastic. There's nothing here about our strengths that's negative,
No,
in my
yeah.
opinion. So if you're feeling called out, it's only because you're one of the few people that have restorative. So we're able to say, hey, does this sound like you?
Yeah, it was especially the club thing because I did fix up an entire club for my last 2 years of high school. That's like, so I think that hit a little hard because I was like, oh, I actually did do that. And yeah.
Well, congratulations. See, you're already changing the world in a positive way.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Samantha, what do you think? As we're wrapping up here, what do you think? Give me a summary.
I learned quite a bit about these two words that are strengths, and I feel like I know a couple people who are like this, honestly. That's like about it. I don't know. I know how to like talk to them now, sort of, to a certain extent, at least.
Well, you know, there's probably, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think it's like 27% of Augustana students have restorative. So you're talking about a large percentage of students that are also walking around with this strength. So, and working with them, and when you see a friend or you go up to somebody and you see hanging up on their room is restorative, you can know a little bit about it now and say, okay, this person's going to jump to fix a problem. If I go in there with a problem, they're going to jump to fix it. That's fantastic if you want that problem fixed. If you don't want that problem fixed and you just want somebody empathetic, it's okay to say, turn off the fixing and just listen to me for a minute. And I'm calling out Caitlin on this one specifically. You know, if Caitlin jumps into fixing mode, it's okay to be like, put the brakes on, don't fix, just listen. I don't want to fix her yet. I'll come back when I want it to be fixed. Okay, Kiana, wrap us up. What do you think?
Okay.
No. There you go.
Okay, so I don't have restorative as a strength, but I was just like listening, and like I have command and activator, and it just made me think about my impatience.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm just a very impatient person.
Well, this will be a fantastic opportunity for you to grow and deal with that then.
Yeah, because like I like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it right away. Like not like in the aspect of like fixing problems, but I like things done right away.
I love it. I love it. Okay, well, I think that kind of wraps us up for today. Thank you, Kiana. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Samantha, for showing up today and being a part of our conversation on restorative. Let me look real quick and make sure I understand what is exactly next week. We do this every Thursday at 3:30. No,
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
We do it every Wednesday. Ooh, next week we're going to talk about futuristic. So I got Caitlin and Kiana on futuristic next week. So maybe we'll see you back. You can come and learn about how to merge these things all together. So thank you all for coming. And hopefully we'll see you next Wednesday, 3:30.